YouTube, Vestri Productions here, and today we want to talk to you guys about different types of leather that you can find. Now the types of leather we're going to be showing you is a small amount of the types, but we do want to show you just a small example of some of the leathers we like to use in our projects.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of questions, especially from that deck box video, on what we use for that as well as other things. So we're just going to take a bit to kind of dive into that and just going to share with you guys what we get and what we like.
Leather is measured in ounces, 8 ounces, 10 ounces, 4 ounces. Like, what the heck does this ounces thing equate to? And there's some great references online to kind of find what ounce leather will work for you in your project. But to answer the question that you guys keep asking us about our deck boxes, we love to use 4 to 6 ounce leather. So we pick up one of these little handy tools, and this gives you guys just a brief kind of idea of the different thicknesses of leather on a gauge, and kind of what it equates to in millimeters.
So yeah, it's a super helpful tool. Some guys like to use actual precision measuring tools, micrometers and whatnot, and those are definitely nice.
Which is a lot more precise than this tool, but
yeah, they are going to be more precise. But this is nice. It's cheap, and it just gives you a general idea. You throw it in your pocket and you get up and go. So I mean, looking at what we have here, we've got a couple different leathers. This is a full hide that we picked up. It's one of the really nice grains, really good for taking stain and whatnot, but we don't really like using this one for the deck boxes. And a lot of that has to do with the texture on the back. If you guys remember from that video, we use a tool called a V-gouge to cut in the creases where we're gonna be making the folds. And the reverse grain on this doesn't do well with that. It just doesn't cut very smooth. So we save this for pieces like for bracers and whatnot, where most of the work that we're going to be doing is all going to be on this front side.
So check the underneath side of the leather that you're wanting to use too. Granted, every single cow is different, so it totally will depend, and unfortunately it's one of those things that until you bring the leather home and actually start to work with it, you really won't know until you try it. So sometimes it's better to buy a smaller piece of the leather type that you're looking at using first before jumping in and buying a huge hide.
Yeah, so this hide right here, another piece of edge tan, it's about the same thickness, but it's just been conditioned a little different. The back side responds really well to that V-gouge. In the front side, super nice for tooling. One of the things that you'll find too when you're working with leather, going again back to that deck box video, we did some wet molding there, is how the leather takes water. You'll find that some absorb it kind of slowly, and it gets, it holds, it stays nice and malleable. This stuff right here, you'll hit it with some water, you'll start working it, and it'll be bone dry in no time. So just something else to kind of think about as you're working with leather.
These leather types, you'll notice, are kind of this peachy color, and this is called vegetan. Vegetan leather is very, very, very common. This is the color that we will always start with, and it's not until the leather has been dyed that you get that different color. But this is the leather color that a lot of the leather starts out with, is just this tan, kind of peachy color.
So what we brought out here as well, this stuff's a lot of fun. As you can tell, it has already been stained, but these are various pieces of deer skin and elk skin. This stuff is great. I love the way it feels. I love the way it smells. It's really fun to work with. It's not gonna tool very well because of how soft and supple it is. If you were to want to tool in designs to this kind of stuff, it's just not going to take it very well. Not to say you can't, it's just not recommended.
You just got to choose the leather that's going to work right for you and your project. Deer skin, you guys probably all know deer skin gloves, just very, very soft, like Chris was saying, supple. But deer skin tends to be relatively thin. Different projects that I want something like deer skin, but I want it to be a little thicker. I love using elk skin because it's just like deer skin. Elks are deers, but because elk is a larger animal, you're gonna get a lot thicker of a skin to work with than the deer skin, but very similar in feel. It really depends on your project, on what type of leather you want to use. Obviously, you're not going to build a deck box. It's something like this, and I totally smacked myself in the face. But you know, if you want something rigid, something that's going to form well, you know, start with a Vegetan leather, something with a little bit of thickness, but not too thick. Just kind of have to decide on your project. See what works well for you.
If you're starting out in leatherworking, it's one of those things you're going to kind of learn as you go. When we first started out, we had no real idea what was best for what. We made some judgment calls. The people over at Tandy are super helpful. They did help answer a lot of our questions, but we did have to do some experimenting. And the reality of that is some money did get spent on hides that we're not using for what we bought them for. But having leather on hand is super useful. You never know what project may come up. You never know what you might want to build. It's also really nice when you're testing stains, if you're experimenting with new tooling techniques. So never, if you buy something that doesn't end up working out for your project, never feel bad that you have it, because it will come in handy. It is always useful.
Yeah, for sure. I know one leather that we got was really way too thick for the deck boxes, and we were kind of experimenting, but we left it on hand, and now we use it for armor pieces, bracers, all sorts of things like that. So, I mean, what doesn't work for your project doesn't mean that you won't use it for a project in the future. But thank you guys so much. Stay tuned for more leather tutorials coming your way. And please, once again,
don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button below. It does help us out, and you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.